Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. My name is Margarita and today I'm here to talk to you about the books that I have most recently read. This is going to be a little bit like an April wrap-up, but there are some books from March, but these are just all of the books that I have recently read. I'm going to split this video up into two parts. The first part will be books that I got off of my Libby or Hoopla app, so there will be no books for me to show you physically because I do not have them. And I'm sorry I don't have fancy editing software. I do all of this on my phone, so you're just going to be looking at my face for the first half of this video. The second half of the video are books that I actually do have, and I'm going to categorize all of these things in the books that I liked the least to the books that I liked the most. So without further ado, let's just jump in because I have a lot of books to talk about. So like I said, the first part of this video is going to be books that I don't have the physical copies of because I either got them off of my Libby app or the Hoopla app. But I do have a list right here of all the books that I read. So there are 8 books that I'm going to, well actually probably more than that I'm going to talk about here. So the first one is In Bed with a Highlander by Maya Banks. I gave this 2 stars. This is a historical fiction romance novel, and it is about this young woman who is stolen by one of the clans in Scotland, and then another clan comes and rescues her, and she's supposedly the heiress of the king, I think, but like his bastard child. I don't really remember all the details, but of course there's a love story, and I enjoyed it. It's pretty good. It's not the best thing I've ever read, but it was a good book to pass the time. I flew through it. The next book that I'm going to talk about is An English Bride in Scotland, and this is by Lynsay Sands. I also gave this a 2 stars. And this is also another historical fiction romance novel, and this is about a young woman who is at a convent. She has not become a nun yet, and one day her family whisks her away to get married to this Highlander that her older sister was betrothed to, but her older sister ran away with the stable boy, so they need to fulfill their end of the bargain, or else I think they're going to be destitute or something like that. And the love story that follows from there. There are shenanigans. Someone is trying to kidnap her and hurt her. You don't know who until the very end. I kind of figured out who it was early on, but it was good. I enjoyed it. Not the best, not the worst. It was a good way to pass the time. You're going to notice a theme here. I am complete and utter trash for historical fiction romance novels recently. I don't know what it is. So the next 2 books are in the same series, and I have a copy of the first one because one of my secondhand bookstores coincidentally had it, so I picked it up, and that is the Spindle Cove series by Tessa Dare. The first book is A Night to Surrender, and the second book is A Week to be Wicked, I believe. Yeah, A Week to be Wicked. These are both by Tessa Dare. I gave them both 3 stars. So again, historical fiction romance novels. This one follows our main character, who is, I believe, what's her name? Susanna is some like spinster or something, because she's, I think, almost 30 and is not married yet, and she is basically in charge of this town called Spindle Cove, and she takes in all of the young women from society who either have scandal or they're not very outgoing, and she tries to not rehabilitate them, but she tries to give them a welcoming place so that they can come out of their shells and then re-enter society later on. And Spindle Cove has no men. Well, one day Bramwell and his men take over Spindle Cove because her father is some general or something who has a lot of sway, and Bramwell has been kicked out of the army because of a injury, and he's trying to prove himself. So then, of course, the 2 fall in love, shenanigans ensue, things like that. So A Night to Surrender follows those 2, and in the next book, A Week to be Wicked, you follow a young woman, Minerva, and Bramwell's cousin, I believe, cousin or nephew, I can't remember, I think it's his cousin, Lord Payne, and it's their love story. I gave both of them 3 out of 5 stars. It's a fun series. I'm going to continue on. I have the 3rd book out on Libby now, which I'm currently reading, and I'm enjoying her books. I've read quite a few, and I actually went out and bought another like 3 or 4 of her books. So I enjoy her writing. The next 2 books are also by Tessa Dare. The first one is The Duchess Deal, and I gave that 3 out of 5 stars. The Duchess Deal is about a young woman who is a seamstress, and she needs to get paid for a wedding dress that she made, but the wedding was canceled. So she goes to the groom's house and says, "You need to pay me for this dress." And he is a horribly disfigured man who, I believe it was a war accident where he got horribly disfigured, and his bride-to-be left him because he was so ugly and she couldn't bear to look at him. And of course the two fall in love, and it's their love story. 3 out of 5 stars. I enjoyed it. I'm trash for Tessa Dare, apparently. I'm a complete trash can when it comes to her books. Because the next book that I read was Romancing the Duke by Tessa Dare. I also gave that a 3 out of 5 stars. This one is about a young woman whose father wrote these not fairy tales, but these goodnight stories, and about his daughter in these fantastical worlds and all these things to try and help her sleep at night because she's afraid of the dark. And he leaves her penniless because her cousin takes all of his royalties once he dies. And I believe her godfather leaves her this castle. Well, in this castle is this duke who is hiding out because, again, he's disfigured by a sword and now he's partially blind, so he feels the need to hide from the world, and they fall in love, and it's their love story, and it's cute and it's fluffy and it makes me feel good. And yeah, so luckily that's the last Tessa Dare book that I have to talk about this wrap up, so stay tuned for next wrap up. The next set of books that I have to talk about are The Wicked and the Divine. I read volumes 1 through 6. I gave most of them 3 to 4 stars, depending on the volume. I really enjoyed them. It's a very interesting graphic novel series where you're following every 90 years, 12 gods of the pantheon of different types of mythology, different types of gods come out, and they inspire mankind, and it is that story. The first volume really confused me. I wasn't sure what was going on, but I really enjoyed the art style, and I love the different gods and all that, so I kept going. My least favorite volume by far was volume 3. I gave that a 2 stars. I did not like the artwork, I did not like the story, I did not care about any of it. But I did really enjoy the rest of the series. The artwork is absolutely stunning, except for volume 3. Was not a fan of that artwork, but all the other artwork, absolutely stunning. I absolutely loved it. Definitely recommend it. Trying to figure out what's going on with that bad guy. I don't understand her motivation. I really don't. Just, what the heck? Can't wait. Can't wait for the rest to come out. I'm almost done with the books that I don't have. So the next book that I have to talk about is Furiously Happy by Jenny Lawson. I read this as an audiobook. This was my first ever audiobook, and I really enjoyed it. I gave it a 4 out of 5 stars. It's basically stories from her life. She suffers from all kinds of things, depression, anxiety, and she's just telling you her stories, and the cover is of a taxidermied raccoon, and it's really fun. There were moments that I couldn't help but laugh. There were moments that I wanted to cry. There were moments that just spoke to me. Like, I knew exactly how she felt because I had felt those same things too. It's really good. I recommend it. And last but not least, I read The Vegetarian by Han Kang. I also gave this 4 out of 5 stars. This is the story of a woman in, I believe, Korea, who decides to become a vegetarian one day because of a dream that she has, and it follows her sister, her brother-in-law, and her husband's perspectives. None of the perspectives are actually hers, so you're seeing how the world is viewing her and her mental illness and what's going on, because there is an underlying mental illness that causes her to become a vegetarian, and it was absolutely heartbreaking. I loved it. I highly recommend it. When I can find it, I will purchase it for myself and keep it in my collection, because that's definitely a book that I'm going to want to reread over and over again. So good. I highly recommend it. If you've been thinking about picking it up, I just recommend that you pick it up. Just do it. Do yourself a favor. It's beautiful. So next are the books that I do have physical copies of. The first one that I'm going to talk about is The Red Queen by Philippa Gregory. I DNF'd this book like 100 pages away from being done. I just could not stand it anymore. This is one of the 18 books that I picked to try and read in 2018, and so far not doing very well with those books. I did not pick good ones. This was just, I cannot stand the main character. This is a historical fiction following Margaret Beaufort, I don't know how you pronounce that name, but basically she's the last heir to the Lancasters, and she gives birth to the first Henry Tudor, I believe, and she's trying to get her son on the throne, and it's goes back and forth between the Lancasters and the Yorks, and that struggle for power. And I really didn't care. She is the most annoying main character. She thinks that she's God's gift to Earth, and she's not, and she just thinks she's so devout, but she judges people, and I hate that holier than thou mentality. I just absolutely hate it. Want nothing to do with it, so I'm going to get rid of that book. The next book that I have to talk about is Blood of Wonderland by Colleen Oakes. This is the second book in her Queen of Hearts series, and this is supposed to be the origin story of the Queen of Hearts. I have the first book, and I was not particularly thrilled or wowed by that book, so I decided to pick this book up from my library. Again, I don't really care about this book. I love Alice in Wonderland, and it really upsets me that I'm not the biggest fan of these books because, like I said, I love Alice in Wonderland. These books are absolutely stunning. I mean, the covers are just gorgeous, but there's just so much lacking in the story, I think. It follows our main character, Dinah, who is the princess of Wonderland, and the King of Hearts is her father, and he is a ruthless, horrible man, and he does not want her to be the queen. And it follows her struggle for that power and dealing with the King of Hearts and what a horrible person he is. But I don't like it. I don't care about her. I find her whiny. I find her a pain in the ass. And can we end that trope of my heart was broken, so I have to be a complete and utter bitch or a complete and utter jackass because I can't be with the person that I love? That's not love, people. That's so fucked up. I'm sorry, but that's what that is. When you really love someone, you want them to be happy whether or not that's with you. And the fact that there's so many books that I'm reading where you don't love me, so I'm going to use that as an excuse to wreak havoc on other people, I just absolutely hate that trope. And this book unfortunately has that in it, and I hate it. 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 And I will not be continuing on with the series. I don't care about the finale. I think there's one more book. I believe it's a trilogy. I don't care. I wash my hands of that series. Want nothing to do with it. And it's so sad because I love the covers. Besides the point. The next book that I'm going to talk about, I gave that 2 out of 5 stars. I don't know if I said that, but 2 out of 5 stars. The next book that I read is The Goose Girl by Shannon Hale. I also gave this 2 out of 5 stars, and this is also one of those books that I chose for the 18 to read in 2018. This, I believe it's some sort of fairy tale retelling, and it's about this young princess who is sent to a neighboring kingdom to marry their prince to prevent a war between the two kingdoms because the other kingdom is so much more powerful, I believe military-wise, than the kingdom that she comes from. So in order to prevent war and bloodshed, she is sent to that kingdom. But the journey's like 6 months between the two kingdoms. So when they're almost at the kingdom where she needs to be, her lady's maid decides to try and switch places with her to take over her role and to become the princess. So she kills off her and a couple guards, try and kill off all these other guards and try to kill the rightful princess, but she escapes. She goes into the kingdom and she becomes the Goose Girl. not the biggest fan, which is weird because I love fairy tales and I love fairy tale retellings. This just didn't really do it for me. I found it kind of boring, and I don't know. I'm sad about it because I was really hoping to like it, and I know so many people love it. Apparently this is a series. There are, I think, 3 other books in the series. I probably will not be picking them up. If I do, I will get them from the library. I will not be purchasing these. I'll probably be getting rid of this one very soon, which is upsetting, but it is what it is. The next book, it just fell off my bed, sorry. The next book that I have to talk about is Bodies of Water by V.H. Leslie. This is a novella, and it is, I believe, I think it's supposed to be like a horror novella. It basically follows these 2 different perspectives in 2 different time periods. They follow 2 different women. The first one is back in, I want to say like Victorian London, and it follows Evelyn, who is sent to this sanatorium where they do all kinds of water treatments, and it follows her story, and it also follows a woman in present day London, what's her name, Kristen, who is now living in that building that was that sanatorium that's been converted into apartment buildings. And it follows both of their perspectives and both of their stories, and how the water is, I don't really know how to describe it, but there's something in the water and it's calling to them, but it's supposed to be really creepy. I found it a little lackluster. It might be because it's a little over 100 pages, so there's not a lot of time to really care about these 2 characters, but it's okay. It's a ghost story, which is not what I was really expecting. I was expecting it to be creepy, and it was, but not in the way that I was hoping, if that makes sense. It was just kind of lackluster. It fell a little short for me. I gave this, I can't remember if it was 2 or 3 stars, but it's kind of right in the middle. I don't really care about it. I don't really hate it. I might save it and try and reread it later. Maybe I'll get more out of it. But so it was just okay. And then last but not least are 3 volumes in a graphic novel series, and that is Lumberjanes, volumes 2, 3, and 4. And this is just a really fun graphic novel series. I picked it up from the library, and it's just a lot of fun. It follows this group of young girls who, I believe it's supposed to be a summer camp of some sort, and instead of Girl Scouts, they're called Lumberjanes, and all the different shenanigans that they get into, and they fight all these different like mythical creatures, and they go on all kinds of adventures. There's one with like a portal that takes them back to, no, it doesn't take them back, it takes them to like the Lost World, and they're not dragons, what are they called? Dinosaurs, and they're looking for a pair of glasses. I mean, it's just all kinds of shenanigans, and it's really fun, and I enjoyed it. The art did change in one of the volumes, and it wasn't my absolute favorite, but I enjoyed it, and I love the friendships in these. They're so good. It's all about girl power and feeling good about yourself, and I'm all for this. I will definitely be continuing on with the series. I don't know if I'm going to get the physical copies or if I'll just find them on Hoopla and read them there. That is the best app. I've just been flying through things on that. But yeah, so those are all of the books that I have recently read. Let me know in the comments down below the books that you have recently read, and hopefully next time I will do one of these sooner rather than later, so it won't be another 20-minute video. If you did stay through all of that, thank you so much. Sorry you had to see so much of just my face for a while, and I will see you guys next time. Bye!